the winds guide you.
Well guys, Classic WoW is nearly here. Just a few more months and we'll be all online once again. But it hasn't always been sunshine and roses. Some of you out there may not be aware of just how long players have been asking for Classic WoW. So let's go back and take a look at the history of how Classic WoW fans got their game and how Blizzard's stance was changed throughout the years. So some people may think that it's only been a few years, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, but in reality, there have been Classic WoW fans out there since 2007 asking for pre-TBC servers. These fans would often go to the forums and post suggestions asking for Classic servers. Unfortunately, the original WoW forums were destroyed by the Cataclysm in 2010, but we still have blue archives for some of them. The earliest post I could find about Classic servers was January 17th, 2007. Now why is that significant? Because it's literally one day after the Burning Crusade launched. The post was half joking, but also half serious, stating please get rid of Blood Elves and give us a Classic server to play on. The idea of Classic WoW was already on the minds of some the day vanilla was lost. The post was made by Tiamat, and received a blue reply saying that they don't want to give their thoughts on the topic. Shortly after that, there was a thread called Old School Servers on June 29, 2007, suggesting rumors that Blizzard is going to make servers where you can re-experience old WoW and the old systems of 40-mans. To which a reply from a blue, linking to an interview, where it was stated there are no plans for Classic Realms. Blizzard made their stance very clear as early as possible. They want WoW to keep moving forward and not go to the past. Then, February 21st, 2008, we saw another post, this time by Surprise Fixer. Subject, WoW Classic servers. The post said, would Blizzard ever make servers that are running pre-BC? I don't see why not, we're paying money to play anyway. Would anyone else like some WoW Classic servers? To which the community manager DrySC replied, we were one time internally discussing the possibility fairly seriously, but the long-term interest and continued play on them could not justify the extremely large amount of development and support resources it would take to implement and maintain them. This was the first time that Blizzard mentioned that they had even entertained the idea of it. However, their stance remained that it won't happen, but it was still very interesting to see that Blizzard had considered it. Now, all of the posts I just talked about were before Wrath of the Lich King was released. During TBC, these types of posts were very uncommon. The interest in a Classic server just wasn't there, mainly because the game was still great. In fact, most people I ask when WoW was the best, I get a split answer between vanilla and TBC. People trusted Blizzard to continue to make greatness, so when someone suggested Classic servers on the forums, they were generally hit by a barrage of no's, and people saying it'll never happen. So in 2008, there were already people attempting to do recreations via private servers. Pre-BC private servers, although with horrible scripting, next to no accuracy, and basically always instant level 60s, were the only way that they could experience the pre-TBC world, even if the private server experience back then was fairly awful. So between 2009 and 2012, we would continue to see a reply from Blizzard every year explaining that they have no plans for Classic Realms. Posts such as these ones. In 2009, no plans to open Classic Realms. 2010, no plans of making pre-TBC realms. It goes against the very nature of an MMO. 2010 again, it's not a very good idea to do. In 2011, more no's. And in 2012, we don't want to maintain two versions of the game. Blizzard's stance remained very clear. It won't happen. But what did the WoW player base think of this back then? So generally when you posted a thread like this, asking why are Blizzard so anti-legacy servers, where they would ask Blizzard to set up maybe one vanilla server or a TBC server, there was a pretty common response from the players. And the responses were generally no, or vanilla was bad, Classic WoW was a really depressing thought, people bathe in nostalgia, everyone's saying vanilla are crying morons, and having no plans to do it means they won't do it in the future, stop making threads like this, or trying to push it. They aren't gonna make any plans about this, not now and not in the future. The Classic WoW community was generally shunned. Most people wanted WoW to continue and not go back. They didn't want to see the developers waste their time with an old game. People like myself who wanted the chance to go back and play legacy servers were an extreme minority still even in 2012. So something strange started happening in early 2013. There was a sudden growth in the desire for legacy servers. For example, 22 threads popped up asking for legacy realms, that were made between February 10th and March 12th, 2013 on the WoW forums. Much more than was normal back then. So where was this growth coming from? Well, Cataclysm didn't really do that well, and then Mists of Pandaria came, and it wasn't off to a great start. For many people, the game felt very different by now. WoW had changed. They had started to long for the old days of vanilla or TBC, so there was waves of players making these threads daily on the forums. Threads like, I'll pay extra for vanilla, new servers, old expansion servers maybe, vanilla WoW, they just kept coming. And there were signs that there was a growing interest in this. But in general, most of the replies to these threads stayed the same. The community didn't really care for it. In fact, they'd even had their own copy pasta created, called The Wall of No, made by someone named AberZombie. This post was created to discredit and shut down every single time someone posted about legacy realms. A post where they would list all of the times Blizzard says no, and they even included the key features that were added to the game, such as looking for raid, the pet battle system, flying mounts, and loot trading. Features that they say change WoW for the better. The post was used as an end-all argument against Classic. And looking back today, it's almost comical. The same features that Classic WoW fans fight against daily are to them key features that the game cannot do without.
Have you ever thought about adding servers for previous expansions as they were then?
No. And by the way, you don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't.
Possibly the darkest time in the fight for Classic. One of WoW's lead developers says no in one of the worst ways possible on stage at BlizzCon. The Classic community felt a deep sadness. Blizzard was sure that our love was just nostalgia, and that we were blinded by rose-tinted glasses. But Classic fans are the definition of insane. It didn't stop them from asking in the future again and again and again and again. They wanted the game, and they were gonna get it no matter what. Warlords of Draenor launched, what most believe to be the lowest point in WoW's history. A deep decline in interest and subscriptions to the game had happened. Players missed the old days of WoW now more than ever, and for a lot of people this was the first time that the game really wasn't fun anymore. And I believe that the deep failure of Warlords of Draenor was what led to what happened next. Nostalrius begins. Now, I don't really want to focus in on private servers too much, but Nostalrius had such an impact on Classic, it's impossible to skip over. This fan-made server launched in February 28th, 2015. A private server driven to recreate a Blizz-like vanilla experience. An objective that few servers had tried in the past, and even fewer had succeeded at. The server attracted over 800,000 accounts, and had roughly 150,000 active players. This private server had more significance in the push for Classic WoW than any other. Nostalrius had proven that Classic fans were not blinded by nostalgia. It proved there was a market in Classic WoW, and it proved that it could be done. And after 8 years of being outcasts in the WoW community, there was finally a safe haven for Classic WoW's fans. It wasn't made by who we wanted it to be made by, but it was a home. And then at 2015 BlizzCon, of course Classic would pop up again.
Do you plan to introduce any sort of Classic realms that allow players to play at previous expansion levels?
We do not plan to do that.
But even though Blizzard continued to say no, players were happy enough to just play on the private server recreation. Until 2016 happened, where Blizzard did this.
You can kill us, but you cannot kill hope. Can't I?
Burn it. Burn it!
After nearly a decade of saying no legacy servers, the largest vanilla WoW legacy server was shut down, April 10th, 2016, the day Nostalrius died. Blizzard killed many people's hopes and dreams, but then something amazing happened. The same month in 2016, the petition on change.org earned over 240,000 signatures of people asking for WoW legacy servers. Even Mark Kern, the former Blizzard WoW team leader, supported this idea, and he delivered all of these signatures to Mike Morhaime, the CEO of Blizzard at the time. Dozens of popular YouTube personalities personalities and Twitch streamers, such as SodaPoppin', JonTron, Linus Tech Tips, and WoW Kungan all joined the call to petition for the game. After a solid month of yelling at Blizzard about this, Blizzard finally replied to the call. They were following the discussions of Nostalrius, and they were listening and discussing classic servers internally. They explored options for developing classic servers, but stated there are tremendous operation challenges. Later on in the year, they scheduled a meeting with the former Nostalrius team members. To myself and many others, this was it. We thought it's finally here. They met with Nostalrius, discussed legacy servers. Everyone, even myself, were expecting an announcement at BlizzCon 2016 that Classic WoW will be coming. Then on October 24th, 2016, they posted an update on their official forums. But the update was that they won't be talking about Classic at BlizzCon this year. So after all the forum posts, petitions, and pushing that the players did, there was still no official announcement for Classic WoW. The years of work people put into getting this far, and we still knew nothing. So we waited. And at this point, our hopes weren't high. After 10 years of Blizzard saying no, 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 maybe it was time we had to accept it. And then, November 3rd, 2017, it happened.
But I understand that for some of you, your favorite flavor is vanilla.